Welcome to Whatif tutorials. In this tutorial we will be looking at adding budget lines to budget headers in the sales budgets module. First of all, we'll be looking at the budget line types. These are items, product items, value items, freight and comments. We'll then have a look at how product items are added. Next, value items. Then we'll look at how we edit budget details for both of these items. And finally, we'll be looking at budget item updates. From the sales budget menu, click Create Edit Budgets. This brings us into our budget master file. One line for each budget. In a previous tutorial, we created a budget and it had defaults. Just to recap on those, there is first of all a default product type, either item or value. This is simply a default. Then there is a default phasing code. You can select from previously created phasing codes of percentages per month which one to make as default for this budget. And then you need to decide on the budget structure of the header. So the header can have up to 4 variables, each of which need to be provided to give the detail required for every budget header. So in this case we decided that this budget would have the structure of market type by state. And having decided that, finally we decided on the default price increases and the default cost changes. Okay, so we're now ready to create a budget header. We click Budget Header, Create, and now we get the default phasing code coming in. We only are required to fill in the 2 parameters of the state and the market type. So we're going to create our first budget header consisting of that and that. And we can optionally add these, either discount group or shipping method, to delineate this budget header, but we'll leave those blank at the moment. And then we finally put a brief description in, Queensland Wholesale, and we've created our budget header. It's also brought in the default price changes, but we could change those for this budget header if we wish. And click OK. So now we have a budget header, but we've got no items. So let's look at the budget items. We've got 4 types: product item, freight, comments, or a value service item. The product item is simply an item from the cost module item master file. So let's deal with that one first. We'll add a budget line. Yes, we'll take that. We now come into the costing modules item master file. We'll select this item here, which is a configured item. It can be configured because it's ORD, ordered, and it's a made item, so we'll say use that. That takes us to this item specifications, where we can complete the details we want and also the classifications if we want. Let's just leave them at standard. And excuse me. We next have to enter the annual sales, budget sales quantity of this item. So we'll enter in 12. Now what the system does at this point is it calculates the budgeted sales and costs by phasing the sales quantity and building the sales values for each month and the cost values for each month using the price and cost changes which we specified earlier. Now to see how this works, we click Budget Details. Now this has been all created by the defaults and by the factors we've entered and the percent changes. So let's just go across this column by column. For each month we have the phasing factors there. As our starting point, this top line here, we had budgeted 12 at the current standard price with the current standard discount and the current standard cost to give us a percentage sales of 61%. So now it's built the sales, the quantity first of all using the phasing factors. It's then built the sales by month by applying the quantity to the price and then adding for the next price change. So we had 126 plus 5% gave you that, and that price then further increased by the 2% in January. So thus we have our gross price. We have our discounts at 12%. We could edit these if we wish. And then we have our sales values totaling 1.4 million. Then we have our cost changes. You remember we put in a -1 there to represent an improvement in productivity. So of course that means our cost per unit has gone down from there to there, and that's reflected in our cost of sales, our margin and our percent sales. So those are the budget details, and the things that you can change is the phasing factors, the quantities, the price, the discount and the percent cost. So they can be changed at this point, but if you don't change them, they stay now. Now down the bottom here we have whether we are going to allow updates for phasing. Now the phasing factors have been put in once. If we decide to change a phasing factor, it may apply to many budget items. So this is where you can either allow or not allow these phasing quantities to be changed by a change in this phasing factor. So the phasing factor used here may be changed, the percentages might be changed, and therefore these would be changed, and of course all of the sales values, costs and margin would also change. So we need to decide whether we're going to allow that to occur. So we'll leave it open at this stage. Similarly, if we change our budget header price movements, we need to realise that we can stop them changing this particular one by saying no, otherwise they will change, and likewise the cost updates. Okay, so those are the budget details which we can edit. So that brings us back now to our front screen where we've got our total sales values, GST, cost of sales and margin. Now the other thing that we can look at here are the cost details. So this is for your information basically, but one thing you can change is the make quantity, because this make quantity can also affect the cost of labour. So if you were to change that to 50, then it changes the unit values, but we'll leave that as it is so that it doesn't change our other costs. Okay, now the other thing you can look at, apart from budget details and cost details, you can go back to your specifications. You can change the dimensions of this product because it is a configured product. You might want to change the dimension there to 4000. So you can actually reconfigure the product here, and this should change everything in accordance with that. So if we go into cost details now, our items should have changed based on our changes to dimensions. Okay, so that is a product item. If we want to add a value item, we have these items which already exist in our item master file. If you want to create one on the trot, you can create another item there. All they are is a code, a description, a long description, a category and a standard margin. We'll just stick with these two we've got here. So we'll choose that, premium chairs, and all that's required here is a value for the year in current dollars. Now this is in current dollars, not inflated dollars. Now you'll notice now, and it's taken up the percentage that was in for this value item. It's now calculated that given the price changes we've put in for this budget header, then we get that. If we want to then see how it got that, once again we can go to our details and we can see that the 60,000 in current dollars turns into 63,000 $555 by the time we apply those two price increases. Similarly, the cost of $30,000 by the time we apply these cost changes turns into a little bit more, $30,000, because of this change in or reduction in cost we planned there. So once again, you can allow or disallow changes to these things when you do updates for phasing factors. So that is the value items. Very quickly, the comments, you can just put in a line for comments, and you can put in a line for freight. Okay, so it's as simple as that. So now we've got our items in for this budget header. If we look at our budget totals now, we've got 1.4 million, 540, margin 925, 62.8, and these are the items making it up. If we edit here, we can see those totals here. So that is how we add items to the budget headers. The last thing I want to refer you to is the updates. As mentioned earlier, you've got phasing changes, you've got price changes, you've got cost changes, and also you've got changes to standard costs. Now, all of these things can be applied. For example, if you want to change or apply an update, this will take all of the items in this current budget header and update them for changes to phasing factors. So it does that. If you want to do price changes, you can do the same thing. If you want to do cost changes, same thing. But this shouldn't change anything because we haven't changed those actual parameters. We haven't actually gone in and changed these things here. So the fact that we've done the update shouldn't change those items, and it won't change them because they're the same. But if they were different, it would change them unless we had protected them from those changes when we went into the details. So they are the updates, and finally there's a standard cost update. If you are changing all of your costs in your standard cost costing module, then you can then update your budget header for all of those. Okay, so that then completes the adding of budget items to a budget header. It remains then to add further budget headers to complete the budget. And that completes this tutorial.